Putting a country racked by civil war on the road to recovery and reconciliation is no easy task. Sri Lanka, located off the southeast coast of India, embarked on that road 5 years ago, when after 3 decades of combating a savage insurgency, it scored a decisive victory over the Liberation Tamil Tigers of Elam, the LTTE. By the spring of 2009, the Sri Lankan government determined it had endured enough at the hands of a group that recognized no limits in its drive to gain an independent Tamil state in the north and east of this island nation. It was an insurgency that forcibly recruited children, failed to abide by ceasefires, and which even killed fellow Tamils who opposed its agenda. In 1996, the LTTE used a suicide truck bomb to blow up the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in Colombo. That attack, in broad daylight, killed nearly 100 people. 1,400 others were wounded. More than a dozen bank workers lost their eyesight. One of them was Chandra Mandanayaka. She was working in her first floor office when the explosion occurred.
මාවත් ඒ උඩට ගිහිල්ලා සීලිමේ වැදිලා බාල්කේ එහෙම බිමට වැටුණා මාත් සමග එතන හිටපු මගේ හිතවත් ඉහෙලියන් දෙදෙනෙක් ශේවජය සූර්ය ශේපාලේ කාරුණ සිරි කියලා ඒ දෙන්නත් මං වගේම උඩ වීස් වෙලා එතනම වැටුණා. ඒ දෙන්නට කිසිම සිහියක් කතා කරන්න කිසිම සිහියක් තිබුණ නැහැ. මට තරමකට මට යන්තම් සිහිය තිබුණා. මේ ඒක නිසා මම මේ පසුව මට මේ ඈත කටහඬවල් කීපයක් ඇහිලා මම ඒගොල්ලන්ට කිව්වා අපි 3 දෙනෙක් මෙතන වැටලා ඉන්නවා අපිව ඉක්මනින් අරන් යන්න කියලා. පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලන් දුවගෙන ඇවිල්ලා අපිව මේ ඔසවාගෙන අරගෙන ගියා. මේ ඔසවාගෙන යන්නත් බෑ අපිව මුළු ලේ විලක් අපේ ඇඟ මුළු ඇඟවල් ඔක්කොම ලේ වලින් වැහිලා තිබුණේ. පස්සේ කර්ටන් ගලවගෙන කර්ටන් වල උතාගෙන වගේ තමයි අපිව එළියට අරගෙන බැංකුවෙන් පිටිපස්සේ දොරෙන් හොස්පිටල් ගෙනියන්න අරගෙන ගියේ.
The blast cost Chandra her independence as her life was forever and dramatically changed.
ඉතින් බෙහෙත් කරා ඊට පස්සේ මහා ස්පිතාලෙත් හිටියා මාස කීපයක් අයි හොස්පිටල් එකෙත් බෙහෙත් කරා. ඉතින් එහෙත් ඉතින් බැරි වුණා සනීප කරන්න. ඉතින් S2 නැති වුණාට පස්සේ ඉතින් මුළු ජීවිතේම අපේ විනාශම වුණා. කියන්නේ මගේ දෙමව්පියෝ මේ මගේ S2 නැති වුණාම මම පවුලේ වැඩිමලා මට බාල තව සහෝදරයෝ හිටියා. ඉතින් අම්මා තාත්තා
Chandra says her prayer is that all groups in Sri Lanka live together in peace. 6 months after the central bank explosion, LTTE guerrillas put suitcase bombs on a commuter train in Colombo. 64 people were killed. Another 400 were wounded. The civilized world protested to no avail. The attacks continued unabated. Criticizing outside efforts to shape Sri Lanka's post-war actions, President Mahinda Rajapaksa says other countries just don't understand the pain the war inflicted on his nation and everyone in it.
We are the people who suffered. We are the people who suffered, not the others. For others, it was a news. For us, it was agony.
This is Colombo today, the capital of a reconciling middle-income nation that boasts a vibrant economy with the highest growth rate in South Asia. It is an economy keyed in part by large-scale foreign investment and an increasingly skilled workforce. In 2013, Sri Lanka's economy grew by more than 7%. By now, such numbers have become an annual expectation. Much of the growth is centered in Colombo, the capital, where loans from China are financing what will be a huge port city, where the construction of new foreign-funded oceanfront hotels reflects confidence in the country's future. Tourism is back in a big way since the end of the war. In January, foreign arrivals were up 32% over the same month in 2013. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has been rebuilt from its bombed-out shell. Far from the capital, there have been dramatic reconstruction efforts as well in former fields of battle, especially in the northern province. Post-war government finance projects made for a surge in Tamil employment roles in rebuilding a war-ravaged infrastructure. Government officials say it also contributed to the country's reconciliation effort.
The Northern Province development has been the highest in the country in the last 3 years. The investment that has gone into that country, in that part of the country, which is around $3 billion in 4 years, is an enormous amount of investment when you take the Sri Lankan public investment into perspective.
The latest project, a Central Bank of Sri Lanka regional branch in Kilinochchi, once the center of a de facto independent Tamil state. By the time the project is completed, hundreds of workers will have helped build it. After that will come the jobs to staff it, another investment in reconciliation. Private enterprise also has a major role to play here. This large clothing factory in Kilinochchi ships its iconic brand products to European and American markets. Up from the original 30 trainers 2 years ago, the VDL factory now employs 600 people. Almost all are Tamils, as is the general manager.
At the end of the day, it is the people who in this part of the world, people who are the people who suffered in the war. So by giving them employment and opportunity to live, and integrating them with the society, I think that's that's something which the country is hoping to do, and that MAS is part of that plan.
A byproduct of the return to normal, this factory sponsors a number of Tamil boxers. One is already a national champion. It is an effort to integrate the athletes into the wider Sri Lankan sporting world, reconciliation. In the Eastern Province, there is a major push to get in on the tourism boom. In the Batticaloa area, a half-dozen luxury hotels have been opened on this stretch of beach. Another 8 are under construction. But of course, Sri Lanka has more basic needs to fill. With the help of international organizations and other countries, thousands of homes have been renovated or replaced for resettling displaced persons on land which has been made safe by demining. These Northern Province houses are going up with funding aid from Australia, Switzerland, and the European Union. Roads are being improved, meaning much easier access to commercial traffic in and out of regions cut off during the war. Bridges, frequent insurgent targets during the war, are being rebuilt or replaced. In some cases, you see a bridge where there was none before. One will connect the Ampara and Batticaloa districts. For decades, people here have had to rely on a primitive ferry service or travel an extra 40 kilometers by road to get across or around the water. Post-war electricity projects are greatly increasing generating capacity. This station serves the Jaffna area and replaces a smaller facility destroyed by the Tamil Tigers. But the national priority for water these days is tilted away from power generation in favor of drinking water for everyone. The government is working to expand the drinking water supply, though in the meantime, severe drought conditions have cut deeply into reservoir and river and stream levels, putting pressure on current supplies. Efforts to reinvigorate the agriculture sector have also been affected by the lack of rainfall. Rice farmers are among those especially hard hit, and many are turning to alternative crops. The fishing industry is faring better. Eastern Province fisheries report a 300% increase in yield since LTTE forces were driven out. 400 boats operate from this port alone. Reconciliation has led to social improvements. Hospitals in former LTTE-held areas are being outfitted with state-of-the-art medical equipment. Large numbers of schools have been rebuilt or renovated in the northern and eastern provinces. With the fear of fighting gone, on display this typical weekday morning, the same collection of smiles, the same hustle and bustle of schools throughout the country. Add to that a series of unremarkable former war zone street scenes, and you get a compelling contrast with the past. These were shot in the predominantly Tamil Northern Province. These in the Eastern Province, where Tamils and Muslims form the majority. There was a time when such pictures seemed a world away. Those were the dark days of an insurgency intent on having its political way, no matter the toll in human suffering across all ethnic lines. In this Eastern Province mosque in August of 1990, LTTE guerrillas murdered 79 Muslims inside. 24 more were killed in an adjoining building. The bullet marks remain. In Kilinochchi, a municipal water tower was demolished by the LTTE. It is now an anti-war memorial. In nearby Jaffna, the central government building was destroyed by the Tamil Tigers. It too is kept as a war reminder. Jaffna's historic railway station was torn apart. The insurgency wanted little to do with links to the rest of the country. So focused was it on its version of reality. Since the war ended in May 2009, hundreds of thousands of displaced people have returned home to land long held by the insurgents. Resettlement was not easy, in large part because of landmines. It is a legacy of the war and a continuing threat, though the remaining mines are all believed to be in remote jungle areas. One of those places is Mullaitivu, near where the Sri Lankan army gained a final surrender. Tamil Tiger forces hoped the heavy use of mines would slow down the army units pursuing them. The Tamil Tiger spent years working on a deadly barrier of landmines, separating them from the advancing army forces. As they saw themselves headed for defeat, the LTTE planted mines at random, around houses and wells, along village pathways, and beneath farmland. That way, the mines would be harder to locate and more apt to kill or cripple Sri Lankan army soldiers and civilians alike. Clearing them from jungles is especially dangerous. Sometimes machines can be used, in this case with heavy chains meant to cause harmless detonations. Dogs have been called in as well, many sent here by foreign donors, including some in the United States. But most of the work is done by hand, a painstaking job fraught with peril. Highly trained specialists locate, dig up, and defuse the mines. It is a process that demands constant attention to the life-threatening nature of it all. No telling when the job will be complete.
Depending on the ground and the situation and the pattern of the mines, we can't say exact date. So,
could it take years more?
It may be.
Specialists from many nations have helped enormously in this work. By 2013, one NGO from Switzerland, working alongside the Sri Lankan army, had destroyed 173,000 mines just in the Jaffna and Kilinochchi areas. The net result? Years ahead of schedule, it is possible for Sri Lankans to live and work in places where for decades one wrong step could have been a person's last. Days of an insurgency, unwilling to surrender until military realities on the ground left it no other course. But before the guns were silenced, in apparent desperation, the Tamil Tigers held close to 300,000 civilians as hostages in the north, forcibly moving them from place to place as human shields. It is documented that insurgents fired on people trying to reach army-held positions. Others were penned in at gunpoint. These were people the Tamil Tigers had always claimed it represented. They were rescued by the Sri Lankan army. In Batticaloa, Arun Tambimutu, a leading Tamil political figure, says all that mattered to the LTTE was its own separatist agenda. His father and mother were assassinated by the LTTE. The father, a member of parliament, had opposed demands for a separate Tamil state. At 13, the son was beaten, shot, and kidnapped as he and his mother were seized by Tamil Tiger soldiers. He says the ride to guerrilla detention presented scenes of LTTE carnage.
Just around that corner, somewhere around this area, there were another group of boys who were being shot. I saw two guys being shot there. They were executing them. This wasn't like a gunfight and people dying. This is guys who were all being caught and they were being shot at.
Then came captivity, with no water, no food. The only constant was fear. For a mother and her son, the mental torture was excruciating.
One guy came and said, maybe tonight we'll kill you, we'll shoot you in Tamil. Then my mother was telling, what do we do? And my mother was telling, maybe if they have a look, maybe we can ask them that we need to use the toilet and we'll try and run away. At least then they may shoot us while we run. We don't have to be tortured. But I couldn't even get up. I was virtually, I just couldn't bear the pain. Pain was so much. That's when I first realized my mother was breaking down. Until that time, my mother was consoling me. But then I told her I can't get up. Whatever happens, we'll just have to wait. I can't get up. And I just fell asleep.
Ultimately, Tambimutu's father managed to get his wife and son freed, but until then, they endured the horror of not knowing if they would live or die.
I was just waiting, counting. Every time somebody came, I thought they were going to go and kill us. But then we were released.
In 5 months, Tambimutu's parents would be dead, killed by LTTE assassins. The son would flee to family in Great Britain. Now, Arun Tambimutu is back. And despite the cruelties he endured, he says he is dedicated to ethnic reconciliation. A representative of the ruling coalition's dominant Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Tambimutu on this day was on Mango Island, site of a one-time leper colony. He was working with a group of former militants.
Reconciliation for me, it's not just a mere political terminology. Reconciliation means it's our future. I do not want the past to dictate the future. If it does, it will just destroy our future, my future and my community around me. And for me, future is what matters. So reconciliation is to reconcile with whatever happened in the past and move on. And for us, we have to move on. We need closure. And that closure is what I'm seeking. So I don't want to be a victim forever. I was a victim. But time has come for me to shred that and move on and find a true peace, which I'm starting to find.
There has been plenty of criticism aimed at the Sri Lankan government for the way the war ended, with many charging that army shelling killed massive numbers of civilians spread among the Tamil Tigers. The government vigorously denies that, but the idea of the wrap-up battle was aimed at once and for all ending an insurgency that had caused so much suffering for so long to so many, including untold numbers of Sinhalese and Tamils alike. Rohan Gunaratne is the head of the International Center for Political Violence and Terrorism Research in Singapore. He was born and raised in Sri Lanka. On what might have happened if the civil war had been allowed to continue.
If the war did not end, every year Sri Lankans would have been burying 5,000 to 10,000 Sri Lankan civilians, military personnel, Tamil Tiger cadres. And this war had to end, and I think everyone should be happy that the war ended.
Professor Gunaratne says all Sri Lankans were victims.
People in the north, people in the south, in the east and in the west. The economy suffered. It's not only people who died, people who were killed, but people's dreams were destroyed.
On the road to reconciliation,
in 30 years of war, a lot of people develop prejudices, suspicions, angers. So in 5 years, you can't hope that they will reconcile. But in these 5 years, 3 very important things have happened. One is 12,000 Tamil Tigers have been rehabilitated and reintegrated. Second is almost all the internally displaced persons have been resettled. Third is huge socio-economic development in the north. But what we need to do now is to reconcile the hearts and the minds. This simply physical infrastructure development is not going to achieve. But the investment on the physical infrastructure side is the first step.
The government, meanwhile, is working to put a number to the lives lost during the war. There is also a presidential commission on disappearances and missing persons, charged with identifying those responsible and taking legal action against them. Its establishment was recommended by Sri Lanka's post-war Lessons Learnt and Reconciliation Commission. Secretary to the President, Lalith Waratunga, concedes that similar investigations in the past have produced few results. This time, he says, will be different.
There is a very specific mandate to this commission, that is to inquire into grievances submitted by various people in regard to disappearances of their loved ones, maybe abductions, maybe involuntary disappearances, maybe any other way that they have not found their loved ones. The time period is very specific, from February 1990 to May 2009, and the mandate is to find out if there is any cause for these disappearances, who did it, who were the perpetrators, if there were any, and to give a full report to the government.
Mr. Wiratunga, could this commission be seen as a response to those critics in the world who claim Sri Lanka needs to do much more on the issue of accountability?
I think so. Certainly, because I think there are so many suggestions by various people. But I think we first need to know how many people have gone missing. So the accountability, the primary goal is that, okay, we need to find out these people who are missing. And this is certainly a first step, of course.
Wiratunga insists the government is intent on reconciliation. What else, he asks, explains the release of nearly 12,000 former LTTE fighters who either surrendered or were captured at the end of the war. Almost all are now back in society. We met two of them, both former LTTE child soldiers. One, a 21-year-old woman, Natarasan Sugirtna, nicknamed Gopi. She was abducted by the insurgents when she was 16 years old.
ඒක සර් මේ කෙදරෙක් සර් කවුරු හරි එක්කෙනෙක් අනිවාර්යයෙන් LTT එකේ යන්න ඕනේ. නැත්තම් මේ අම්මලා තාත්තලාට තමයි ප්‍රොබ්ලම් අම්මා තාත්තට. එහෙම තමයි පස්සේ මේ මගේ කෙදර අක්කා දෙන්නේ අයියා එක්කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ යන්න බෑ කියලා මේ කොයි හරි ගියා. ගියා මේ මාමා නන්දා කෙදර මේ වගේ කෙදර හිටියා. පස්සේ LTT හැමදාම එනකොට මගේ අම්මට තමයි අප්සෙට් වෙනවා. අල්ලගත්තද කියලා දන්නේ. පස්සේ අම්මට පස්සේ මම ඉස්කෝලේ පාඩම් කරනකොට මේ කරාතේ එකේ යනවා. කරාතේ ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකේ යනවා.
Gopi told us she was given 2 weeks of training, issued an automatic rifle, and ordered to the front as her normal teenage years came to an end.
පස්සේ සර් මං බෑ කියලා කිව්වා. මට මේ නෑ ඔයා අනිවාර්යෙන් යන්න ඕනේ කියලා කිව්වා. මං කිව්වා පස්සේ මට මෙඩිසින් දන්නවා. දන්නේ නෑ සර් මං කිව්වා මට දන්නවා. මම එනම් මම මේම කරන්නම්. මේ ලොකු අක්කලා ඉන්නවා සර්. එයාලත් එක්ක ගිහලා මං ඒම කරන්නම් කියලා කිව්වා. අර තුවාල වෙනකොට කට්ටියට මේ බේත් මේ ඉන්ජෙක්ෂන් බේත් ඒව කරන්නම් කියලා කිව්වා. ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක යනකොට තමයි පුදුකුඩු ඉරපු වෙත්තලා මට ඔළුවෙන් තුවාල වුණා.
We also talked to a 37-year-old man who joined the Tamil Tigers voluntarily when he was just 13. We are shielding his identity at his request.
Sir, ඒගොල්ලන් අර පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳලා ආසාව පෙන්වනවානේ සර්. ආසාව පෙන්වනකොට ඒකද අපි පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳලාම අම්මා තාත්තා නැති නිසා මාව ඒ කටි අදව නිසා ඒ කට්ටියගේ අර අවියාවිදේව දකින්නකොට ආසාවට තමයි ගියේ සර්.
During his 19 years as a Tamil Tiger, he admits he did some terrible things. Near the end of the war, he says, he booby-trapped a bus of wounded fellow insurgents who wanted to surrender to the army.
අන්තිමදී සර් මම යුද්ධය කරගෙන ඉන්නකොට දැන් කිනෝන් සර් නැති වුණා කියලා කට්ටිය ඉල්ලනවනේ සර්. ඒ කට්ටිය එනකොට මට දැනුත් සෙන කෙනෙකුට හරි දුක හිතෙනවා සර්. ඒගොල්ලන් බස් එකේ ගෙනියලා කට්ටිය බස් එකේ ගෙනියලා ඔක්කොම නගන්න කියලා අපි ගිහලා කැම්ප් එකේ අමුදාට බාර දෙන්නම් කියලා කට්ටිය ඒකම පස්සේ ඒකට මේ කියන්නේ වෙඩි බීත් ඔක්කොම පුරවලා මගේ ඉඳලා කිලෝමීටර් 50ක් දුර ඇතුළේ යන්න ඇති සර්. උගෙන් පස්සේ බස් එකේම පුරනවා සර්. තුවාලය සර්.
When you put those explosives on that bus, did you have any regrets or did you feel that it was simply an order you had to obey?
ඒකට අපිට ඕඩරයක් ආපු නිසා තමයි කරේ සර්.
Gopi's easy smile, her interactions on the job, make it hard to comprehend the past she has known. But the memory of those lost years is painful. If she has children, will she tell them what happened?
නෑ සර්. මට සර් ඒක කියන්න කැමති නෑ. මට සර් මේ කොච්චර අමාරු වුණා කියන්න මට මේ.
Both of these former child recruits surrendered to the army. Both now work with the government security force in the northern province. In fact, there has been a growing pattern of young Tamils, men and women, entering security force training, another slice of reconciliation. At the same time, there is no loss of Tamils' dedication to their cultural traditions, which it is hoped will itself be an element of ethnic reconciliation, if those traditions are respected by Sinhalese Buddhists and Muslims. Many international critics say Sri Lanka's reconciliation prospects are bleak. But consider what we heard from Selva Arikuna Raja, a Tamil. He left Sri Lanka to escape the war and became a naturalized British subject. Now he and his family are back in the northern province, focused on people learning to live together.
Now we want to produce the new generation to the Sri Lankan. We don't want to the Sinhalese, Tamil, Muslim, but everyone want to under Sri Lankan. So that is we need. That's why we work like this.
Selva intends to work in an inter-ethnic school for young children. It is the brainchild of another Tamil, private contractor Samasundaran Jathavan. He has 300 workers from different ethnic groups working together on the project. He hopes it's a preview of Classroom Accord.
We can create a good generation, and we can normally, that generation definitely will love to Sri Lanka, definitely. I would like to do some work for our country.
Back in Colombo, Presidential Secretary Waratunga says half the recommendations of the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission have been implemented, and that he is determined to see the rest carried out as well. He also argues that no other nation can match Sri Lanka's record on post-war reconciliation.
We are very confident that our story has a base, that our story has very strong foundations, and that built on those foundations, the world will have to give us some credibility to see that we are going on the path that we have designed to go. That is the whole idea, because reconciliation can never be achieved in a day or two. If there is any example in the whole world, I don't think we need to be worried about any example, because there are no examples.
There are signs the message is gaining some resonance, even in Washington. In late February, 11 members of the U.S. Senate called on President Barack Obama to adopt a comprehensive and balanced policy toward Sri Lanka. The Senate resolution praises Sri Lanka's reconciliation process. It calls on the United States government and the international community to offer meaningful assistance to the government of Sri Lanka to make its domestic endeavors toward reconciliation more effective while respecting the country's sovereignty, stability, and security. Clearly, there is more healing and reconciliation to be done in Sri Lanka. Changing hearts and minds after a 3-decade-long civil war is no easy matter. But it also seems apparent on the ground the process is at least well underway. Gene Randall in Colombo, Sri Lanka.